Kundavihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kundavihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Gopika Baba Girivaradari Gopika Baba Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Baba Girivaradari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopi Jana Baba Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Going to fill this up really? What is that thing?
This is recording video.
Oh, recording. Oh.
Upload later.
Oh, okay, so that's recording video and that's recording.
Yeah, but this is live on Facebook and that's to upload later.
Oh, it's up, okay.
Something like that, I'm not sure. It has the way.
Okay, some technical detail thing. Michelle!
I have one card.
My obeisances at your Lord's feet. Such a long separation.
Oh.
COVID hug. Alright. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Udirayat. Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttamashloke. Bhakti Bhagavati Neshtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and also Srila Prabhupada, our translator and commentator, without whom we wouldn't have any of this. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as a irrevocable fact. Alright, so today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 25, entitled, yes, you guys are all very attentive in Bhagavatam class. Glories of Devotional Service, text 30. And who's speaking? Who's been speaking in these past few classes? Devabhuti. And what's she been asking her son? I mean, the easiest way. Make it simple. Very beneficial for us in Kali Yuga, right? Because we don't have much time. So we need the simple version. You know, it's like in college, you had this required reading, right? But sometimes it can take a really long time to read through all these books, and you'll figure this out when you get to college when you're not there. But I noticed, God, and sometimes I could have 300 pages to read in one night. And then I learned, make it simple, get the cliff notes. This saves a lot of time. So, Devabhuti here, she's asking Kapila, hey, make it simple. So we're going to read a little bit more about that today. All right. Taritanme viganiti. Yatam hamandadir hare. Sukam budeya durbodhyam. Yosha bhavara nugrahat. Taritan me vijaniti. Yata hamanadir hare. Sukambudyeya Durbodyam Yoshabhavaran Anugrahat Taritan me vijaniti Sorry, there's no T there. Taritan me vijaniti Yataham Dadir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodyam Yoshabhavaran Sorry, I was reading it all the time. Anyway, somebody please chant it much better than I just did. Taritame vijanihi Yatahamadir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat
Taritame vijanihi
Yatahamandatir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat Taritan me vijanihi Yatahamandatir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat Yatahamandatir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat Taritan me vijanihi Yatahamandatir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Anu Yoshabhavanugrahat
Do you wanna?
Taritan me vijanihi Yatahamandatir Hare Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat
Beautiful. You're grown up now. It's time for you to start chanting the Sanskrit. Michelle.
Taritame vijanihi Yatahamandatir Hare
Yatahamandatir Hare
Sukambudyeya Durbodham
Sukambudyeya Durbodham Yoshabhavanugrahat
Alright, word for word. Taritat. That's same.
That's same.
Me. To me. Vijanihi. Please explain.
Please explain.
Ita. So that. Aham. I. Manda. Slow. Dihi. Whose intelligence? Hare. Oh my Lord. Sukam. Easily. Buddhiya, they understand.
They understand.
Durbaram, very difficult to understand. Yosha, a woman. Bhavat anugrahat, by your grace. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. My dear son Kapila, after all, I am a woman. It is very difficult for me to understand the absolute truth, because my intelligence is not very great. But if you will kindly explain it to me, even though I am not very intelligent, I can understand it and thereby feel transcendental happiness. Please repeat. My dear son Kapila, after all, I am a woman. It is very difficult for me to understand the absolute truth, because my intelligence is not very great.
My intelligence is not very great.
But if you will kindly explain it to me, even though I am not very intelligent, I can understand it and thereby feel transcendental happiness. Alright, Prabhupada's commentary. Knowledge of the absolute truth is not very easily understood by ordinary, less intelligent men. But if the spiritual master is kind enough to the disciple, however unintelligent the disciple may be, then by the divine grace of the spiritual master, everything is revealed. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur therefore says, and you guys all know this, Yasya Prasada, by the mercy of the spiritual master, the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavat Prasada, is revealed. Devahuti requested her great son to be merciful towards her, because she was a less intelligent woman, and also his mother. By the grace of Kapila Devi, it was quite possible for her to understand the absolute truth, even though the subject matter is very difficult for ordinary persons, especially women. Like myself. Oh my goodness, Ram Disha, Ganachana Shlakaya, Chakshuru, Binitamina, Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manu Vishtam Stapitamina Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam, Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamana, Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha, Shri Rupam Sakrachatam, Sahagana, Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam, Sadvaitam, Sadvadutam, Vrishana Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padam, Sahagana, Vita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jakapate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostate, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanustute Devi, Pranamami Haripriye, Vanchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubevacha, Patitanam Bhavdevyo, Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Alright, so,
Thank you, Elijah.
It doesn't fly in here.
Because there's like over a dozen.
yeah, they keep flying in my plate.
Like, this one I counted like 6 on the window.
I think that's one species that just lives in every climate to cause misery to other living entities. I mean, everywhere you go in the world, you find those flies. Alright, so, a key theme that's been brought out in these past few texts is humility. The humility of Devahuti. And humility, it's really important because it's something that is actually required for us to make spiritual advancement. You have to be humble. In fact, you have to be humble to really learn anything or to really get anywhere in this material world. I remember that I had this one college course, and this is just a material example, but it just shows how far humility can actually take it. And it was American government, and everybody in the course, almost everybody, they were making like D's and F's. And if you did really good, you either got like a C or a B, you just barely got by. This class was hard as anything. So we had this website called ratemyprofessor.com. I don't know if any of you've been to college or familiar with it, but before you pick a class, when you sign up for college, a lot of people would go to this ratemyprofessor.com. So you can see what that professor's reviews were for the course. And that way, if they had a lot of bad reviews, you're like, all right, I don't want that professor, I'm getting another professor. Because you had a couple professors to choose from usually, when you were picking a course. So, this professor, actually, the first day of class, he was like, so I'm pretty sure you are all familiar with ratemyprofessor.com. And he pulls up his profile page. And every comment is, this teacher is the worst teacher ever, do not take his class, you will fail his class, drop his class immediately. And he was proud of his really bad reviews, being a really difficult professor. And he always had this drink in his hand. I'm suspecting it looked like scotch or something like that. He was carrying a drink while he was lecturing. So, and his class was really hard. But I was used to making A's, and even I was making like a B in his class. It was really difficult. So, I had one friend who took this class, and I asked her, what did you make it in? And she said, oh, I got an A. So a lot of people thought it was class. And I said, how did you do it? Like, I'm working my butt off, I don't know how. She goes, I went to his office, and I very humbly explained how much I appreciated his course. And he could very easily explain to me, how does one make an A in your class? And he told her, and she got an A. But a lot of the other students had this attitude of, this professor sucks. Talking very bad behind his back because they couldn't understand the subject matter of what he was trying to convey. So instead of going to him and saying, look, I can't understand this, how do I make an A in your class? They just talked bad about the professor, wrote bad reviews about the professor, didn't really try to understand. And she was the only person I ever met in the whole entire university that had ever gotten an A in his class. I think the university had to let him go eventually because it actually looks bad if you're passing too many of your students for a certain amount of time. It actually looks bad if too many of your students can't pass your class. So the university doesn't like either one nowadays. So I think they let him go. But just goes to show, humility gets you a long way. Even when I go to stores, if I'm looking for something and I can't find it, I'll always go to an employee and say, I don't know my way around here, and you guys are expert at all this stuff, so can you please tell me where I can find such and such? And they immediately just go out of their way for you. They're like, oh yes, let me find it. And then they go and find it, and then they're like, if it's a gadget, they'll want to show me how it works. If they can't find it, they're going to look in the back. And so just being kind of humble, it can keep you a really long way, because humility is attractive, and nobody likes to be around somebody who's popped up and thinks they know everything. And so even I would tell my friends, when they said, oh, I went to the store and I couldn't find this, I would say, well, did you ask? And they're like, no, well, if I can't find it, it's not there. And then I would go ask, very humbly, and I would get it. So these are just material examples. But it kind of works the same way in spiritual life. In spiritual life, we're trying to understand that which is actually beyond our material senses. So to do that, you have to have humility to understand that Krishna is ultimately, he's beyond our material senses. He's unlimited, and I can't understand him without some help. So you'll see this throughout our shastras. devotees humbly submitting themselves before their spiritual master. Because Krishna, he said ultimately that all knowledge and all forgetfulness come from him. And we see in the pastime with Lord Chaitanya, when he was enacting his pastimes as Nima Pandit, he was teaching his students, Sanskrit and public Vedas, and there was a very knowledgeable Pandit, and he was known for defeating everyone. And so he went to debate Nima Pandit, and he was a great devotee of the goddess Saraswati. And so he went to Nima Pandit, and Nima Pandit very respectfully received him, and asked him to say some prayers in glorification of the Ganga. So he did. He immediately set off 100 different verses. And then Lord Chaitanya, who was Nima Pandit at the time, asked him to explain further the 64th verse. And he was shocked that he could even perfectly recite one of his verses, whom he had recited them so quickly. But Lord Chaitanya said, the 64th verse, please explain this. And Lord Chaitanya goes on to find, several faults with this verse. And then he also points out some good things about it too. And this Pandit, he's bewildered. He's thinking, oh my gosh, how is this happening? I've never been defeated before. And actually, another important lesson is that Lord Chaitanya's disciples, they wanted to laugh at him because this guy was very pumped up. So haha, we're getting what you deserve, finally, And Lord Chaitanya stopped him. He's like, no, don't laugh. And he told him, you go home and you study your books, and tomorrow we can come back and discuss. So Lord Chaitanya, he also wasn't very proud of his, his knowledge. He was also very humble. So the devotee of Saraswati goes home, and he's praying to Saraswati, what happened, And Saraswati comes to him and says, the person you're trying to debate, he's my Lord and Master. And so, so you should go surrender to him. So we understand from this pastime that, Krishna, we might get some knowledge, from some demigod or somewhere else, but Krishna is the one that ultimately helps us remember it or can make us forget it. And we also see examples in our Shastras of how, pride can separate us from Krishna, and how Krishna doesn't like pride, and how he humbles his devotees. And another famous example, and this is often quoted, is when Krishna was having his rasa dance with the gopis, and he expanded himself many times, so that each gopi, had their own personal Krishna. And they all thought, Krishna is just with me. But then they began to think, we are most fortunate. Krishna is just with me. Krishna is with us. And so Krishna, he didn't like this pride, and he disappeared. And he goes off with this other gopi, who is, we understand later, to be Radharani, although it's not said directly in the Bhagavatam, because the speaker would have, gone into too much ecstasy, and he wouldn't have been able to continue if he had mentioned the name of Radharani. But then later, when the gopis find Radharani, they see too that she is also alone. And Radharani is the highest, devotee. Nobody can love Krishna more than Radharani. Even Srila Prabhupada told us, I think he said on the ship on the way over here, you have the mercy of Krishna when Radharani is pleased with you. So they find Radharani, and Radharani is also in distress because Krishna disappeared from her, because she said, I also too became a little proud. So Krishna will disappear from the gopis, and at the same time disappear from Radharani, what to speak of us. And so it's how, detrimental, how bad, pride can be. It can separate us from Krishna. So it's also very important for us in our devotional service to try to cultivate this this attitude of humility. And we can see here that, of course, it's also said that Krishna disappeared from the gopis to increase their love for him and things like that. They're very exalted. But also that example of pride is given too. So there are many lessons within this pastime. But we also see in the Shastras another devotee who humbly, submitted themselves in Chaitanya Lila is Sanatana Goswami. When he met with Lord Chaitanya, Sanatana Goswami, he was, considered a great personality, and he knew many languages. But when he came across, Lord Chaitanya, he's telling Lord Chaitanya, he says, I was born in a low family, and my associates are all low-class men. I myself am fallen. I am the lowest of men. Indeed, I have passed my whole life fallen in the well of sinful materialism. Because Sanatana Goswami felt this way. Because of his, association with Muslims and things like that, he actually felt himself to be very low, even though he was actually born in a Brahmana family, and he was considered to be great by many people. But he said, many people consider me to be great, but I do not even know who I am. So, we're all in this position in the material world. We can sometimes think, I am so great, I am so this, I am that, but really, as spirit souls, we actually don't know who we are. And that can only be revealed to us by the mercy of Krishna, the mercy of the spiritual master. So, in order to do this, one has to have humility, as Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Tadini paripraptina parivashanam sevaya. So, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master and inquire from this plan. And the self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the absolute truth. So, Lord Chaitanya also teaches us that to chant the holy name of the Lord, one must consider themselves lower than the straw on the street and offer all respects to others. That famous verse in the Shikshashtakam that is now escaping. Anyway, I know this by heart, but I can't remember it. But yes, so he's also telling us that how we should cultivate humility. So the devotee understands this, that without the help of Guru, they can't actually understand who Krishna is. So Devavati, she's also kind of cultivating this mood. My Lord could feel that even though she's his mother, and technically, she's actually, you would consider that a superior position. But because she knows his position as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and somebody that can, help her make advancement, she's presenting herself in front of him as, I am not very intelligent. So please explain this to me in a way that I can understand it. So, but we can also see in our devotional service how sometimes devotees try to cultivate humility, but they end up cultivating false humility. Or they mistake low self-esteem for humility. And you can see this, like somebody will be like, Prabhu, I'm the most fallen, I am this, I am that. But the moment they're chastised, they become very offended. Did you hear what so-and-so just said to me? I cannot believe can you believe they said that to me? Or, can they believe that? Can you believe I spent an hour cleaning the temple room, and the temple room commander comes in and tells me that I'm just a spot here and there. They just don't understand how much service I'm doing around here. So, you can see that too, that people can sometimes try to make a show of being very humble. But the moment that they're corrected or chastised, and then they're what's really in kind of comes out. It says if you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. So when you squeeze somebody, what really is within them will come out. And then I also remember one time we were eating breakfast in the temple room. This was right after I moved into the ashram. And because we didn't actually have a prasadam room in the temple I was staying at, Bhagavatam, like in our temple room, we would have to convert that into our prasadam room. So we would close the curtains and we would bring out tables and we would all eat breakfast in there. So Bhagavatam class would often go into breakfast. So that meant that somebody had to clean the temple room after breakfast. You know, mop the floor and things like that because we dropped prasadam everywhere. And so somebody always had that service, and then one time, I guess somebody didn't do their service, and there was a brahmachari, who's very sweet, very humble, and he was walking through the temple room, and as he's walking through the temple room, the general manager comes in, and she's like, "Who left this mess here? You can't have the temple room," and she starts actually chastising him. "Why have you left this here? Why is the temple room should not look like this? Prabhupada said people should be in, you know, we should be revolutionary clean. People should be in all of our level of cleanliness." And he says, "Yes, mother, you are absolutely right. I will clean this immediately." And then right then, a devotee comes in and he goes, "Why are you chastising him? He is not to blame. It's actually my fault. I did not do my service." And she was so shocked that, she was like, "Oh, Prabhu, I'm so sorry, but this one devotee," he didn't defend himself. He wasn't like, "Oh, I didn't do that. It's not my fault. This is not my service, Prabhu," something like that. But he actually took that to say, actually what this devotee is saying is true. And that, and took it like that. So in the same way, it's also said and it can be very hard because the defending propensity is there. But it is said that one way to cultivate humility is when somebody comes at us like that, we should think, is there any truth to actually what they're saying? And then that actually will help us cultivate humility. Try to learn the lesson in it. And also, another thing is that tends to happen when we've been doing a service for a very long time, or even just if you've been in the movement for a while, or been very steady, is that people begin to glorify you. So a lot of questions are raised, like how do we actually stay humble? Because one of the tendencies of the Vaishnavas, obviously, is to glorify other Vaishnavas. So how do you not let this go to your head? And so we're often told that one has to remember that all knowledge, all forgiveness ultimately comes from Krishna. And that whatever we have is the mercy of our spiritual master, the mercy of Krishna. So therefore, when we're being glorified for something, we should actually pass it on up, say, I only know this because, I've been taught this by Srila Prabhupada, or, or such and such devotee taught me this service, and therefore I can do it well. And I can tell you one story of how I was humbled. And Krishna humbled me. I had this service of polishing the Devi paraphernalia for a very long time. And I took it up very seriously. And generally they give you this service when you're new in Krishna consciousness. I got it when I was brand new. And I never wanted to give it up because they told me that this paraphernalia is an expansion of Lord Balaram. And by polishing it, not only do you benefit, but your gurus also benefit. So I was like, wow, all right, I'm going to keep this service because I like that service a lot. So I would actually polish the paraphernalia every single day in the temple room, even though the standard was only twice a week. I would do it every day because I didn't want the deities or Tulsi deity worship with any paraphernalia that had any spots on it. And I was very proud of this. And I was like, when people come here, our paraphernalia is going to look so great that we're going to think we're worshiping our lordships with gold instead of brass. And I even had my own combination of cleaners. I wouldn't use any chemical stuff. I hated it when I saw brass, though. I threw that out immediately, and I had my own concoction. And I would, even the copper cups, which get really dark on the inside, and people are like, there's no way you can get that out. I would get that out and make the cup look like it had just come from India. And then I would go to places like Alachua, and I would sit here and say, maybe they have a higher standard of deity worship, but our paraphernalia looks better. and then I went to another temple who had a paraphernalia that looked like it hadn't been touched since Srila Prabhupada was physically on the planet. And I polished on this, like, these guys just don't have me here to polish their paraphernalia for them. And so Krishna humbled me, because you always get new bhaktas and new bhaktis in the temple. And so I was thinking that I was so good at keeping the paraphernalia clean. And at the temple that I was at before, they had this standard that that you didn't have to be initiated to do Tulsi Puja or Guru Puja. But, you know, you had to be initiated to worship the deities, but it was like a training center, so they wanted to teach people this. So when you have new people come in and they're learning these things, they don't have such a very high standard of cleanliness. So when they wash the paraphernalia, they won't always dry it like it should be dried. And if you don't dry paraphernalia after you worship the deities, if you don't dry it very well, it almost looks like you haven't cleaned it at all. And so we get this, you know, influx of bhaktas in, and they're, you know, doing artis and stuff. And I would clean the paraphernalia every day. But then after, because I was so proud that I was the one keeping it clean. But then they come in, and then after the morning program, I would see that the paraphernalia looked like I hadn't done anything. And I would be like, alright, I was so proud, Krishna, that I'm the one keeping this paraphernalia clean. But Krishna was like humbling me, so like, you're only able to keep it clean because of my mercy. And so yeah, so I was actually very proud of that. But Krishna, he smashed me. Smashed me very hard. I hope somebody's keeping it clean now, whoever has that service. Anyway, and another way that helps us to actually cultivate humility and devotional service in a practical way is start going out and giving this knowledge to others. Especially if you're going on Harinam, book distribution, things like that, it will really make you humble. Because it's one thing to be in the temple and to speak Krishna Katha amongst devotees. But when you have to go out and actually give it to other people, then it can be quite difficult, especially when you see all these people walking by and you're like, all of a sudden your mind hits you like, how do I stop them? What do I say to them? And in that instant, sometimes you can feel like, I don't know anything. You know, even though you attended 500,000 Bhagavatam classes. And then you do it, and you'll notice that when you find a really sincere person, Krishna, he'll reveal within you what to say, and things will just start coming out of your mouth that you're like, where is this coming from? And it's because that person wants to hear, so Krishna is revealing himself. Because he reserves the right to reveal himself or to not reveal himself. But you'll notice that whenever you come across somebody who doesn't want to hear the philosophy, Krishna, it'll be very hard to speak to them. And I noticed this in my devotional service. And I'm thinking, you know, why is this? I was wondering, why is this in the beginning? Why is it so easy for me to speak to some people and not to speak to others? And that's because they said, you are not the doer. Krishna is actually the doer. You were just trying to transmit the message. We are not the ones actually making devotees. Krishna reserves the right to reveal himself or to not reveal himself to people. We just have to go out and try. And also to, especially when you're preaching and you're doing really well and you're maybe distributing a lot of books and things like that, every book distributor will say the moment you think I'm doing it, you won't do a single book. You'll stop doing books. You can be on a roll, you know, getting this money, getting all these books out, but the moment you think, yeah, that's me, I'm doing great, it's like, Krishna just cuts you off right there. Smashes you, done. So, I've learned a lot about humility by going out and preaching. And on the opposite end, I had a friend, she went out and she was distributing Leela Ritas. Because she was helping these devotees distribute books, and all they had were Leela Ritas. So she had to go out and distribute Srila Prabhupada Leela Ritas to the public. And she was like, how do I do this? You know, like, and she said 50 people like in a row told her no. And she was to the point, and it was very difficult. I think maybe some of them were even very insulting. And she sat down and she started to cry. She's like, Krishna, I can't do a single book. She was a very good book distributor. And then all of a sudden this woman walks around the corner and she says, what is that you have there? And she said, oh, it's, and she explained it. She's like, that's the Srila Prabhupada Lamrita. She said, I actually got one of your books by this person. I've been looking for this. And she bought a whole entire set, went to the temple, and became a devotee. But it was at that point that, she had to get to that point of like, Krishna, I can't do it. You're the doer, I'm not the doer. So, Devahuti, she's presenting herself as less intelligent, but she's actually not less intelligent. She's actually most intelligent. I mean, you can't be an ordinary personality and give birth to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada makes this point in the lecture that he gave on this verse, is that, Devahuti, she's presenting herself this way, but she's not this way. And it says in this, purport, and it might be a little confusing to some, he said that even though the subject matter is very difficult for ordinary persons, especially women, but Prabhupada says, for Krishna, it doesn't matter if one is considered less intelligent or most intelligent. Everyone has the opportunity to approach Krishna. That's how Krishna sees it. Krishna wants to take everyone back to Godhead. And so everyone with a human body, they're given this opportunity to approach Krishna. Now, in other ages, in this age, we have to remember we have a very easy process. But in other ages, the process for realizing the absolute truth, it wasn't always so easy. There could be like lots of austerities or difficult meditation. You could be sitting in a forest, And so it might have been a little bit more difficult for someone in a woman's body to do these types of things. But Vyasadeva has said in one of the Puranas that that when the sages went to ask him some questions, and they wanted to know what is the best yuga, what is the best body, and what is the best varna to make spiritual advancement in Kali Yuga. And Vyasa was bathing, and so he goes down and he tells them the best yuga is Kali Yuga. And they were so shocked because they thought it would be Satya Yuga. Because in Kali Yuga, there's so many difficulties in this age and people are more irreligious. Then he goes down and he comes back up and he says the best Varna is Sudra. And they were shocked because they thought it would be Brahman. And he goes down and comes back up and he says the best body is that of a woman's body. And they were even more shocked. Because he said in this age of Kali, you can attain all perfection just by chanting the Maha Mantra. The process is made very easy for us. And he said sutra because in the sutra ashram, it's all about being servant. And he went down and he came back up and he said woman, because traditionally in a Vedic world, women have the job of being servants. They're serving husbands generally, they're serving their kids, so many people, and so women are generally more servants. So he actually said, men have a body better for austerity, but for women, bhakti, women have a good body suited for making advancement in bhakti. So for anyone can approach Krishna. It doesn't matter what your level of intelligence is. And there are actually different types of intelligence and described in Shastra and described in Sanskrit. And in our English language, we only have one. But there are different levels. Some is analytical intelligence, some is intuitive intelligence. And men and women have all of these types of intelligence. But generally, sometimes men have more than one. Sometimes women have more of one. So in this way, we actually complement each other very well. But in devotional service and making spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness, there is no impediments. As long as you can, no matter what human body you're in, it's a boat to cross over this ocean of material existence. But the most important thing that's brought out in this scripture is that we need to have is that of humility. Because without humility, it doesn't matter if you're in a man's body or a woman's body, you're not going to make much advancement. And Krishna won't reveal himself because he doesn't like it. He doesn't like pride. So my realizations on this verse. I want to leave any questions or comments. Do you have a few minutes? Yes.
I just like to share some realizations.
Yes.
It's like, I'm sure all, boys who experience it, it's like, talking is just a common thing that we need to, Krishna will smash your pride every time, without fail, on God. Like, just like clockwork, Krishna will smash your pride. I think the realization that comes from having your pride smashed many times is that everything is the grace of Krishna. You know, that like if we have a bit of knowledge and a bit of, even if we didn't know anything, we just have to accept it as Krishna's grace. And like, just my own personal story is like eating kirtan. Like, perfect example. We have kirtan and Krishna both all the time. It's great. You know what I mean? The instant you come in front of people where your ego can start messing with your mind, Krishna will kindly remove that ego.
Smash you. Yeah. I have many friends that are really good kirtanias, and they tell me the same story. They're like, they say it's so easy to become proud and it's so easy to want to show off. But the moment you start doing it, you'll forget the tune, you'll go off key, you'll forget the next part.
Never fails.
It's never fails.
It's like clockwork.
Krishna will, he'll smash you.
It's just, leading kirtan is one of the most humbling things you have to do. You're most humble to do it.
Yeah, that's another good example of Krishna. Anything else? Well, the Krishna house usually with a verse like this, it's like 50 hands shoot up.
I have a comment.
Okay.
That story you told about the Prashadam place, there was a story which I Satchidananda Swami tells, that when he was a little boy, he was washing the plates, and he also took great pride and satisfaction in cleaning the plates so nicely. But then something happened in his consciousness, and it kind of changed, and he wasn't doing such a good job, and Prabhupada was there, and Prabhupada told the temple president, because indeed the plates are not being cleaned properly, there's some prashadam stuck on there. And he went and told Satchidananda, I said that these plates aren't clean, and he was like in shock to hear that, and he said, I'm usually so attentive to this, I can hardly believe it that I left anything so careful. And when he saw the plates, and he was like a little bit of prashadam like stuck on the plate, and he didn't get. And then he was just like, wow, Krishna's real, Prabhupada's real, this process is real. So then he became very serious about that, because he saw that it was very personal. Serving the needy is non-different than serving Krishna. We have to always be attentive with devotion. And once we start neglecting our service or doing it as a chore or seeing it as work, then, it's a cloud in our consciousness.
Oh, in consciousness. Yeah. It's also said the pujaari room is an expansion of the altar. So sometimes you'll see people be very attentive about cleaning the altar. But I've been doing service in other temples, and the first place they usually put me is the pujaari room. And I'll see the jewelry, and this will be all unorganized, and everything will be a mess and all over the place. And I was actually very happy and kind of surprised when I came to this temple and saw all the jewelry was neatly hung up and neatly organized. The outfits were all together because other temples do not have it like that. So, yeah. Good job, guys. Anything else?
I just want to comment that I think you handled this, very controversial purple verse very, very well, very beautifully. So I just am very appreciative. I was wondering how you would handle it, and also curious about how younger generations, younger women to be and men to be would absorb this information, and because it can make women think less of themselves or undermine their own intelligence or doubt their intelligence.
Yes.
And we don't. That doesn't benefit us. We
No.
have to trust our intelligence.
Actually, a whole class could be given on that one sentence, by itself. And if you're really disturbed, I can go into it in more detail, but the main point here was the humility, so I wanted to bring that up.
There's a whole website,
Thank you for doing that.
actually dedicated to like Prabhupada, who writes purports, but it's like when you get a text, you don't always have you can't always get the full meaning when you see a text, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're talking about the only person who gives everything, but his mood was very different than that, but it seems there's a whole website dedicated to how Srila Prabhupada actually, what he meant by this thing, he actually explains, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about the women in his movement, there's so many things he actually explains on that, so you might check it out.
Yeah, it's also very good. And, we have to look at the situation, the time period, things like that, what's going on, so, yeah, there's a lot to be taken into consideration. All right, guys, I think it's time for Prashant, so it's time for me to shut up now. All right, Shima Bhagavatam Ki.
Aye.